everyone, it's Miranda. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, then hey, for the first time, why don't you subscribe, become the newest member of the Slashed Squad. Here I review products you won't feel guilty buying and do looks you can actually recreate at home. Today I'm very excited because we're going to be talking about BH Cosmetics and one of their latest releases, the Zodiac Love Signs palette. So this palette may look familiar. It looks a little bit like the original Zodiac palette, which I've shared a couple times on the channel here. And I really enjoyed this genuinely, but I stopped using it for a long time, and I'll share why a little bit later in this video. But in general, BH Cosmetics, I feel like I need to talk about them more on this channel because they're a brand that I started out doing makeup with. I've been using them since I was a teenager, and their products have just gotten better and better. Plus, they are now available in so many different stores as well as online, so I feel like they have really come up in the past few years. So I do want to kind of start sharing a little bit more about them. If that's something you want, let me know in the comments if there are specific products you're curious about, or just leave a thumbs up. But today we're focusing on the Zodiac Love Signs palette. So like I said, this is the second installment of their Zodiac palette collection now, I guess. I'm wondering if they're going to make more of these in the future, but in general, this is just the second one that they've made. And again, we have this kind of like constellation looking layout with a highlighter in the middle, and then we have 12 baked shades and 12 matte shades corresponding with the zodiac signs. Now, I don't really know where they come up with the shade ideas in terms of how they relate to the signs, because I'm a Pisces and my birthstone is an aquamarine. So I would assume that that would have been my color here, but it's actually assigned to Capricorn, and I have kind of a taupey brown combination over here. So I'm not sure what the logic behind that is, but either way, really pretty color scheme with this palette. So in this palette, you can see that we do have some pretty good staple neutrals. We have some browns to play with, as well as some warm like terracotta shades, but we do have some pops of bright color. This turquoise just caught my eye right away, as well as this matte fuchsia. So we have a lot to play with here. It's not necessarily a neutral palette. It's not necessarily like a rainbow palette. It's a very good balance. And of course, you all know I love when palettes have a good balance between matte and shimmer shades. And obviously we have an equal amount of matte and baked shades, and the baked shades can be applied dry for a shimmer finish or wet for a really reflective mirror metallic finish. So I use this palette today to create the look that I'm wearing right now. So before I get into the rest of my review, I'm just going to show you how I created this look for a little mini tutorial. So I'm starting off by using the matte Leo shade as my transition color. And this is sort of like a mustardy orange. And as usual, I'm applying this with my Real Techniques B04 brush. This is my absolute favorite blending brush for really diffusing shades out, especially for transition shades. And while I'm up here, I'm just gonna apply the Universal Highlight shade to the brow bone area. Next, I'm using the matte Gemini shade in the crease area just under that transition. And then just blending out the edge with that Leo shade again to get a good gradient going. These shades blend so well together, it's really easy to get a nice transition going. Next, I'm going to be using the matte Sagittarius shade, which is a deep brown, and that'll be in my very outer corner. And I'm just going to use a little bit of that Gemini and tap that over the dark brown to soften it up a little bit and make it not so insanely stark. Next, I'm going to cut the crease, and I'm using the NYX HD Studio Concealer for this. Next, I'm taking a setting spray. This one is the CoverGirl Look Lockup Spray. I'm going to dampen my brush just slightly. I've just found with the BH Baked Eyeshadow Formula that applying with the damp brush really enhances the color, and you can get a really nice opaque finish. So I'm going into the Baked Gemini shade, which is a kind of fuchsia-y purple, and I'm applying that in a patting motion in the middle of my lid. Also, dampening your brush will help minimize fallout, especially when you are just doing a patting motion. But you will still get a little tiny bit of particles kind of falling down to your cheeks, but definitely makes it a little bit easier to manage when you're using a damp brush. And then I'm just taking the matte Gemini shade to help blend the two together from the lid to the outer corner, just right over that transition. And now I'm gonna dampen another brush, and I'm going into the Baked Cancer shade, which is probably my favorite in the entire palette. It is this beautiful gold, and I'm going to tap that on the rest of the lid. And I'm bringing that in towards the middle of the lid, and then just blending right over that line to get a nice gradient going. And then I'm just gonna tap that middle highlight shade in the inner corner to finish off the eyeshadow. So you can see a little bit of fallout around my nose area of that purple shade. That's about the extent of what I will get when I do my eyeshadow with this palette. Like I said, a damp brush definitely helps minimize that, but even in the palette itself, especially with the baked shades, you can see that you do get a little bit of dustiness around the pans, especially if you're going in and, you know, tapping with a brush. So to finish this eye look, I'm just tight lining with my L'Oreal Infallible pencil. I'm gonna add a wing with my NYX Matte Liquid Liner, and then obviously finishing with mascara. And this is the finished look. Overall, I'm loving the Zodiac Love Signs palette just as much as the original, if not more. Now, in terms of like the original Zodiac palette, I used this a couple times on my channel before, and then I just kind of stopped because it's just one of those palettes that I don't store with my other ones because of the size and shape. It's a little bit weird. It's large, it's big and square. It doesn't fit in my drawers. I mean, it's gorgeous to look at, but I don't know. I just think this packaging is so inconvenient. So I end up not using it because I'm not taking it with me places. It's not like with all my other makeup. I do wish that either they would rethink their packaging, even though it is pretty, or they'd make like a Zodiac mini that would be like a normal palette size with some of the shades from these palettes, because I love them and I feel like I would use these so much more if they were a standard size. It's just kind of interesting to think about how much product packaging plays into the practicality of using it. But yeah, these are exactly the same size in case you were wondering, and in case you were wondering, I did want to hold them up side by side so you can kind of see the difference between the shade ranges. So here is the original Zodiac palette, and here is the Zodiac Love Signs palette. Obviously, the Love Signs palette does lean a little bit more pinky toned. The original had a ton of purples, but for the most part, it was kind of muted in my opinion. Like, there were definitely pops of color, but they were all a little bit more earthy. Whereas the Love Signs palette, we kind of step away from the earthiness and we do have more bright pops of color. I do appreciate the fact though that there is a large mirror inside. Again, this is not a palette that I have ever traveled with in terms of the original. It probably won't travel with the Love Signs one as well, just because of the size. Now, you did just see me using these shadows to create this look, and with the baked shades, I did opt for using a damp brush. I wanted to show you the difference of using a dry brush versus a damp brush with these baked shades, because I think either way you'll get a beautiful result. You don't have to dampen your brush every time. I just find that they apply so much stronger, so much more opaque, as well as less fallout when you do dampen your brush. So for this test, I'm gonna use the Cancer Baked shade, which is that gold that I did put on my lids. And I'm gonna start off with a dry brush so you can see what that looks like. So again, very reflective and gorgeous on its own. This is totally dry, but here we go wet. You can see the difference, right? And if you just kind of smooth that out with your damp brush, it's just a lot more smooth, a lot more opaque, and it has more of a metallic finish versus a frosty finish. And like I said, with the baked shadows, they do tend to get a little bit of kick up when you dip your brush into them, and I'm finding the most kick up with the gold Cancer shade. It is the most beautiful color in the palette, but it is also the most messy. It's the one that gave me the most fallout, as well as the fact that when I remove it, I'm left with a lot of gold shimmer behind on the skin, so that might be a little bit annoying when you're taking off your makeup, but like I said, it's probably my favorite color in this entire palette. As far as the mattes, these are awesome to work with. They are smooth, they're buttery, they're very pigmented, and they blend together really well without getting muddy at all. Even the lighter shade mattes are so pigmented. I'm gonna dip into a couple couple of them. So this is the Scorpio matte shade. It's basically a matte white, and matte white is really hard to get right. And this one just goes on really well in one swipe, but you can definitely layer it up. And here's the Capricorn matte shade, which is this beautiful bright turquoise. And again, just in one swipe, you're getting almost complete opacity. And just like the original palette, we do have a highlighter in the middle, which you can either use on your eyes or your face. So I do like that they made this a little bit bigger because it is a multi-purpose shade. I would call it a cool champagne shade, but it does match really well with most of the looks that you'll be creating with this palette. So the BH Cosmetics Zodiac Love Signs palette is available for $24. You can either get it on their website, you can get it at Ulta Beauty, and I also forgot that they are in stores at Kohl's as well. All of those links will be below. Have you tried the new Zodiac palette or have you tried the old one? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below if you have a favorite between the two. All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more makeup reviews like this in 2019, hit the thumbs up button. That was the biggest piece of feedback that I received in the comments last year, so trying to do my best. And if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, become the newest member of the Slashed Squad. Gonna do a lot more makeup reviews this year. I'll see you in my next one. Bye!